Welcome to the Happier Life Project, the official podcast from the award-winning mental health and wellness app, My Possible Self. Hosted by broadcaster and journalist Gabby Sanderson.
Hi, it's Gabby. Welcome to today's show. We have another important and rather timely conversation lined up for you. Body image, body surveillance, self-objectification, self-worth and the pressures we face from culture and social media are being discussed more than ever right now. From curvier than they previously were celebrities returning to the spotlight, to viral body image content on Instagram and TikTok, to the rise of accessible weight loss drugs and cosmetic procedures, women are feeling new pressures to constantly modify or optimise their bodies. Today we're joined by Lucie Vallée, a body image therapist who works predominantly with females to help them break free from negative patterns around food, body image and self-worth. Lucie is deeply passionate about guiding others through the same journey of acceptance and self-discovery that she herself experienced after overcoming a 10-year-long eating disorder. I first came across Lucie on Instagram, and what immediately struck me was her thoughtful perspective on how culture, media, celebrity and beauty standards shape the way we see ourselves. She's someone who truly understands the pressures women face, from body surveillance and cosmetic tweakments to the rise of all these accessible weight loss drugs such as Ozempic. And she is committed to helping us navigate these issues with awareness and compassion. In today's conversation, we're unpacking some really important topics. We'll explore what body surveillance really means and why constantly monitoring our bodies can be so harmful. We'll also discuss how triggers work and why it's important to understand and avoid them. We'll look at the hierarchy of body types and how cultural ideals can create a disconnection from ourselves. Body image trauma is another key topic, and we'll examine the way society's standards can leave lasting impacts. We'll talk about why we're no longer tolerating male objectification while acknowledging that self-objectification still needs more attention. And finally, Lucie will share her thoughts on why we should always avoid commenting positively or negatively on someone's appearance. This is such a rich, nuanced conversation that I know will resonate with so many of you. Whether you're navigating your own body image journey, supporting someone else's, or just trying to make sense of the culture around us. Ready to find a healthier, happier you? Let's dive in. Welcome, Lucie Vallée, to the Happier Life Project podcast. Thrilled to have you on talking about a topic. It's kind of linked to what we have discussed before. A lot of our audience are young females, so this theme really hits home. But we're going slightly down a different path, and that's talking about body surveillance and self-objectification, something you know a lot about and work a lot about with your clients. But I thought just to kind of like kick us off, we could just talk a little bit about you first. You're a body image therapist. So what exactly does that entail? I mean, we've kind of got a bit of a clue within the title.
Well, thank you for having me here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm a body image therapist, which means that I work with people, mostly women, with helping them break away from any negative pattern they might have around food, which can be eating disorders, body dysmorphia, or just general body image.
Isn't that most women to some degree?
Yeah. I think most women have some issues with that to some degree. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's probably because of how we're conditioned. I mean, it's no surprise when we talk about things like media, social media and society, etc., which we'll get into. Could we sort of kick off, I suppose, with talking about then body surveillance and what exactly does that mean?
So body surveillance is what happens when we monitor ourselves constantly, basically, when we're checking ourselves in mirrors and pictures and windows. So we're very focused on our bodies, on how we look. Mm-hmm. So it's a constant state of alert. You could say like your body is not fully resting. So your nervous system is kind of always wired in a way like if there was a threat at any time, as if your own body was the threat. Your body needs constant supervision because there's something dangerous about how my body could look.
This isn't like health anxiety where we're checking for potential illness within the body. This is like a beauty thing that we're looking for. What kind of stuff are we observing?
It depends on people I've worked with. I've noticed most women are focused on the trait that they would have that sticks out of the norm. Mm-hmm. So some women, it's about a facial feature, maybe their nose, their skin, or their profile. And some women, it's about weight. It's about their posture. It can be anything, actually.
So when does it go from like, checking ourselves out in the mirror because we're walking past and we can't really help it, and having a quick glance to something that is more obsessive and unhealthy?
Well, I think it's kind of a spectrum. So I think it's when it comes with anxiety, when it becomes a state where you're never fully resting, when it prevents you from fully enjoying moments, like weddings or maybe family events, when you're more focused on how do I look, how are people perceiving me, how am I going to look in the picture, rather than actually enjoying this beautiful family moment. That, for example, is a moment where you could say it's a bit too far.
Yeah, so it is very linked to like self-esteem and self-worth. What made you so passionate then to sort of focus on this area working with clients?
So I went through an eating disorder. So I had all the symptoms of disordered eating, body surveillance, body dysmorphia. And that had a major impact on my life, on my ability to be happy, my professional life, my love life. So it was really the struggles of my 20s. And the healing from that was a beautiful journey, and it wasn't easy. And yeah, I just got passionate about guiding other people on the same journey.
And can you completely heal from this when it's so deep rooted, would you say?
I think that's an interesting question because I notice a lot of people that come to work with me, that's their biggest hurdle, like a misconception, that they're like, can I even heal from this? And I think it comes from this cultural idea that we have that it is normal for most women to have some level of body dissatisfaction. It is normal for women to diet, to talk about their weight. It's not so important. It's something they deal with. So we've normalized like, yeah, every woman is dissatisfied with something.
Right.
But I don't think that's true. I really don't think that's true. Like I see how I live today and how this topic is not something I think about. I'm really at peace with it. And I live a beautiful life, and I see it also in my clients and the liberation that comes from healing that. So that really gives me hope. Yeah.
So then how do you, I guess, personally, and then also how do you guide your clients with protecting yourself online? Because, it's so dominant in just life. And yes, women do get affected, I would say, more than men, but it also does affect men as well. I know lots of men that are commenting in a negative way on their body image. So it's really constantly around. So how do you kind of shield yourself from some of this noise? Because it's basically how we get sold products ultimately.
Yeah, no, for sure. There are a lot of triggers around like our culture, all of these like social media, pictures, mirrors, all of that. I when I work with my client, we put it in the category, these are triggers. And right now, the wound of body image is a big wound for you. So let's just take a step back and just try to remove the triggers when you're healing. So I would say like when I start working with a person, I would advise them to unfollow all the people that are triggering you, try to keep away from social media, try to keep away from all the triggers, and then heal your nervous system to become at peace again, to not feel this background threat and to be triggered again into a fight or flight mode where you're constantly surveilling yourself. And then when you feel better with it, it's not so triggering anymore. Like it happens to me that I get some influencers on social media, that are showing off their bodies. And I'm like, that's silly. Good for her. When you're healed, it becomes not such a threatening to your own sense of worth and safety and all of that.
So your form of therapy, you're trained in Gestalt therapy. Am I pronouncing that right? Gestalt? Yeah. So could you tell us a bit about this? Because I'd never come across the term before, and sort of how does this particular approach work for your area of expertise?
Yeah. So Gestalt is really focused on the present moment. So when I work with a person, I will ask them, when they tell me a story, I will ask them, how are you feeling about this right now? What are you noticing in your body? What kind of emotions? What kind of tensions? So you're trying to take people away from the stories they're telling themselves, the anxiety about the past and the future, and a bit out of your head in your body. And that's very efficient when you work with body image, because it's about embodying, going back into your own body rather than being stuck in your head.
Do you find this affects like people all across the board, different shapes and sizes? Like it doesn't matter, because I've had people say to me, well, what would you know? You're slim, for example. That's just something that's unattainable for them. But then actually I struggle with body stuff just like everybody else, too. So yeah, in terms of like who comes to you, is it right across the board?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because I think in our culture, there is a bit a hierarchy of body. We see some bodies as more desirable, more acceptable, and some bodies are not seen as desirables. So we assume probably the people at the bottom of the pyramids are the one who have problems with confidence. And that's just not true. I've had people that were obese, and I work with also women that are, I would say, at the top of the pyramid, like women that are beautiful, that are models, that are blonde, white, like exactly what anyone would want to be. But what I work with is body image trauma. It's this idea that as little girls, we are born fully present in our bodies, fully innocent, fully connected to our wisdom, to our body sensations. And then our culture creates a disconnection there. There's a point where you learn that your body is not acceptable, that your body is looked at, that it's judged, that it's going to be used. And that creates this disconnection from yourself. And that can happen through multiple ways. And for people who don't fit the norm, that event, that trauma is usually bigger. But for beautiful women, it also happens in multiple ways. There's sometimes a sense of danger around being so beautiful, or perceiving as a young girl that people are looking at you in a way that is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And there are also people that are going to reject you, people who are going to criticize you. Like we all face that. I've never met a woman who had never had an experience with her body where she became to feel like, oh my God, existing in this vessel is something dangerous to my safety in a way.
I was listening to you on another podcast this morning, and something that I thought was it struck a chord was you were saying that with a lot of people that maybe do come to you or have problems in this area, that like you grow up thinking it's kind of the goal when I get this, my idea of perfection for me, body perfection, then this is like where I'll get to be happy. But then that goalpost kind of moves and it's just unachievable. You're never going to kind of reach it, but it does seem to stem from stuff that goes on in childhood. You can probably articulate it much. Well, I'm sure you can because you said it. But I thought, wow, it's so deeply embedded in like childhood, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So then how does perfectionism come into this? Because do you work with a lot of perfectionists and then it's kind of just another area is the body has to be perfect, much like, the career or the raising a family or whatever it is?
Yeah, I find that they're very connected in the way that they're both an attempt to feel safe through control. So they're an attempt to soothe your nervous system who's in a state of feeling threatened by something by controlling an outcome. So you have a hope that achieving some kind of outcome will prevent you from rejection, from abandonment, from criticism. And that's something that your body perceives as really life-threatening. Like really on a cellular level, you're terrified of rejection. And so you're trying to control that. So it's very similar. And I also find that people, both that have perfectionism or body surveillance, usually come from backgrounds of high performance, ambition, like families where there is this idea of like, we have to be high achievers.
Yeah. Well, I guess speaking of high achievers, I mean, I found you on Instagram because I saw a post that you did about Jennifer Love Hewitt. And, it was quite a passionate post that you put about basically she's come back into the spotlight with this, new/old movie. Is it a sequel? I don't know. This, I know what you did last summer. However,
I don't even
the franchise. She's kind of back in doing what she was doing probably 20 years ago before she had like 3 kids and whatever. And it was like this kind of, I guess, mixed review online, not about her acting skills, but about the fact that she'd returned to the spotlight a more curvier version of herself. I don't think unhealthily overweight or anything like that. But you were basically saying, this pressure that women have to just stay frozen in time. I mean, I feel it. I think about like certain jobs that I've done in the past or have been put up for or whatever. And I've been really criticized on my appearance, not on my presenting skills as much. One time I was grieving. And so I did lose weight naturally because I would just lost my appetite. My grandma had passed away. And I went for a TV, audition. And it was like, well, she's the perfect weight. And I thought, I've just not eaten in about a month, And yeah, that was in America, unsurprisingly. But yeah, if you could talk about your social media a bit, because you've got a very good eye for like waking people up to it, I suppose.
Well, thank you. And thank you for sharing that story. I think it's so important that we talk about these stories, like what we go through as women, and that we just correctly label it as like, this is insane. This is not normal.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that. On my social media, I guess I started a couple years ago and I'm passionate about this topic. And I think the more I work with people, the more I think about it, the more articulate I become in seeing stuff and being able to talk about it. So it comes easier and easier to me. And I like to talk about what happens in our current culture and comment, and because there's so much actually that is connected to body image. Like there's something happening every week. So that just gives me content every week to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my thoughts just going back to the Jennifer Love Hewitt stuff was, God, I hope she doesn't really take this to heart and end up going on Ozempic. And I'd love actually to touch on, Ozempic with you, because like this is getting so accessible now, which quite frankly, I think is really, really dangerous. I mean, people I know very well have used it and are able to access it. And, maybe they sort of did struggle a little bit with extra weight, but it just made me think, wow, it's that easy, to be able to get hold of it. And then it makes me think of like people that you work with and how easy it would be for them to get hold of it. And it could potentially be quite life-threatening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have some clients that are on Ozempic actually.
Wow.
So they still come to me because they want to improve how they feel about their body and not just how it looks. And they are aware that there's something there that they want to change in their self-esteem and in the way they view themselves. But the way I see it is Ozempic is just basically a way to, this is going to be maybe a bit controversial, but I think it kind of induces an eating disorder basically, because then you're not hungry anymore. So It's basically the goal of people who want to have an eating disorder, who want to have anorexia, they want to eat less. Ozempic gives it to you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of scary. It is quite scary.
Yeah, I think it actually can be quite addictive as well, because I know somebody that was taking it and they had a goal in mind, and then that goal they got to, and then it was like, well, I've still got some left over, so I'll just, and I was like, what are you doing? You've achieved what you know, why? And then it was, oh, just do it a bit more.
I mean, yeah, I hear the same kind of stories of clients that take it to lose weight, and then when they get thin, really thin, it's like, well, now I really hate my face, or I really hate this, or there's something new, there's a new insecurity. I mean, I think it shows that the body image is trauma, and there's something there about your ability to just love yourself, to feel connected to your body, to feel good about yourself, to feel confident. And it's not about the way you look. It's something happening inside of you.
And then just moving away from like the weight side, the cosmetic side, I've noticed, I'm based in Europe like you, and it seems to be, because I'm from the UK, like the observation from, you know, where I've been, I'm trying not to, you know, be too broad, but the observations I've come across when it comes to especially females from the UK is this very sort of fillered, Botoxed face, and not just with older ladies, but, you know, with women in their late teens and 20s as well. And it's become like the beauty standard, if you will. And I think it's really interesting, because then on the flip side, I've had friends from the UK come over and they're like, wow, everybody's so naturally beautiful, you know, like the Portuguese ladies and stuff. And I'm like, yeah. Again, it's like, I guess this conditioning that we seem to get. Like, I don't know where you're in Berlin, right? But you're French?
Yeah, I'm French American living in Berlin right now.
Okay. So what have you kind of observed on the sort of cosmetic procedures side as well?
That's interesting. I mean, I definitely, growing up as French American, I definitely had this experience of navigating two different cultures since I was a baby. And I very early noticed that their difference into the beauty culture, or what is expected of women in terms of how they should look like. And I've always noticed that French women are a lot more about natural beauty. And so Botox is not a thing, really. It's really frowned upon. Surgery is really frowned upon. Whereas in the US, I think it's very casual.
Yeah.
But I do think that social media is kind of equalizing a bit cultures. I think because social media is creating a global culture, basically, and a bit erasing maybe local specificities a little bit, in a way that I think maybe Botox could become more of a thing in cultures like France or Portugal, where this was something unthinkable.
Yeah, it's kind of becoming like a template, isn't it? Almost. Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about a study that I found. It was on 150 low-income adolescent girls in the US. The study found that those who frequently monitor their appearance experience more depressive symptoms, particularly when the actual weight is higher than they expected. This is like statistically, I guess, reinforcing what we're talking about, but it was really sad, actually.
Yeah, no, it is really sad. I mean, I think this study shows how important the problem is, how deep it is. It's not just about maybe the perception that we could have culturally about, oh, it's just about women being a bit vain or superficial, caring about their bodies too much. No, it's actually deeper. It's really an issue of mental health, of your ability to feel fully happy, to enjoy life. Like women that have body surveillance, like self-objectification, they experience more anxiety, more depressive symptoms, as you said. It's harder for them to do stuff, to get out of their houses, to be fully present, have fulfilling relationships, everything. It is really an important topic.
Yeah, I mean, how many people do you know, like maybe like girlfriends in particular, where it's like they try on loads of different outfits and it's like, I'm not going out in that, you know, because they just don't feel comfortable in their own body. So like we've talked about what to look out for within ourselves if we're teetering on maybe becoming a little bit too obsessive in this sort of self-surveillance, if you will. And why do you think actually, like, we've come so far in male objectification, like as in, you know, we're quite horrified now if it happens. I remember like when I was a little girl, like the wolf whistling and the builders, that old kind of cliche, like they just couldn't get away with it now to the same degree as 20 years ago or whatever. So why do you think it's like so frowned upon now if there's this objectification when it's aiming it at somebody else, and yet we do it to ourselves, and that hasn't been addressed really enough?
Yeah, I mean, that's such an interesting question. It's so important. I think this pattern of self-objectification is so deeply embedded because it happens during our most formative years in our development. So it happens in our most formative years, basically. When we are little girls, this trauma happens. We quickly understand that we have to look a certain way. We understand that our bodies are being monitored, that there's something culturally really important around our bodies. And we internalize all of these standards, and we internalize male gaze, male objectification, especially for us that are born before the 2000s. I mean, maybe, I don't know how it's going to be for young girls that are born today, but when I was a little girl, the male gaze was everything. Like the men would comment on women's bodies. The women would use male language to talk about women. So of course you internalize that. And because it happens at such a young age, I think even if today we understand a lot cognitively in our brains, in our thoughts, we understand, it's still deeply embedded in our bodies.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Well, I kind of pivoted there, but what I was going to go on and to say was that, yeah, if we recognize some of the symptoms in ourselves, then we kind of know we have to look at that. But if we recognize it in others, in like friends and loved ones, like how do you think we can, because it's such a sensitive topic, isn't it? And this was something else that you touched upon on this other podcast that I listened to you on this morning, was the kind of secrecy around, I guess, habits when it comes to food and maybe exercise as well, and trying to achieve. Maybe part of it is achievement, and maybe part of it is also putting on the front of, you know, if you go to a restaurant or whatever, this is what I would have, you know, to whoever you're out with. But so in terms of like helping others that are struggling, if we kind of spot the signs, what do you think we can do there?
I think, that's a tough one, because when you struggle with your body image, there's a lot of shame around that topic. There's a lot of shame around, oh, I should look this specific way and I don't, and I feel the shame for that. And I feel ashamed for caring so much about how I look. So it's really an isolating thing. You really tend to retreat, to not talk about it, because you know that other people might judge you or might perceive that as vain, stupid, or I don't know, a lot of different things that we can project on these issues. So it's really hard to help friends with that, because it's like they feel very misunderstood, you know? So I think the best way you can do, if you have, like I've had my brother a couple years ago, he went through a bit of disordered eating, I think. That was something that was never a topic for him. He was always great with his body, like was never a topic. And then he started to get really into strength training, going to the gym and eating specific meals. And then it became a big topic. And when we were at family events, he wouldn't eat with us and he would make his own meal. And then he was a topic he would talk about all the time. And I was like, okay, there's something there. And I just thought, it's not a topic I can bring up right now. Like this would only isolate him more from me. He's not asking for help. He's doing his own thing. And I think what I think is the best behavior there is to just show love, like show that you're safe, that you're not judging the person, that you're a safe place. You're there to listen, but you're not going to give advice or anything anything that could be perceived as judgment. That's what I think. Yeah.
Would you give any positive reinforcement? Would you comment, even if it's positively, on somebody's appearance?
I would say really not do that.
Don't do that. Okay.
No, don't do that. That's something I really stopped doing because I realized when I was going through my eating disorder, and sometimes people would probably see me struggle and they would say, "Oh, you look beautiful," like maybe an attempt to make me feel better. But then I only heard, "Okay, I'm losing weight and people are commenting that I'm beautiful. So this must be, I'm doing something right here. I need to look thin. I need to have this kind of diet that is actually really bad for me so that people comment that I'm beautiful." I would say never comment on someone's body because you never know what's going to trigger you behind. You never know where they are in their own minds. Like even if you comment someone, you think it's nice to say, "Oh, you've lost weight." You don't know. Maybe that person is losing weight, as you said. Maybe they're going through grief. They're going through something right now. So
yeah. And what if they're like, "Oh, I'm going to get my lips plumped," or, I'm going to, would you say, why? You've looked so great? Or again, is it just a no-go area, do you think?
That's an interesting one. I think it's such a specific, such case specific. I would say a good option, a good route is always meeting with curiosity. Oh, why are you doing that? What's happening for you right now? Like, how are you feeling about this? What are you hoping to feel about this? And just welcoming whatever is coming up and not judging, I would say.
Yeah.
I can't give an advice that would work for every situation,
Well, for anybody listening right now who feels stuck in this kind of constant self-monitoring, what's one message that you'd want them to take away from this conversation?
I would say something like, your body was never the problem. It's our culture that taught us to be disconnected and to fear ourselves and to get in this state of hypervigilance. And being in a state like that is not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of anything wrong with you. It's just proof that our nervous system and our body is incredibly smart and perceptive and perceive the threat in our culture that is there for women who don't look a certain way. It's your body trying to keep you safe, and it's not your fault. You were never a problem. Yeah.
This has all been such really interesting, helpful stuff. And yeah, it's so complex, isn't it? It's this whole body positivity is sort of chucked around on social media. It's kind of a bit like the wild, wild west, isn't it? And it lands differently, I think, to each consumer based on their story and, like you said, their traumas. And sometimes we don't even identify, especially our upbringing, as certain traumas that we've held on to because we're kids. And how would we even, know that? So yeah, you've definitely given us a lot to think about, Lucie. Thank you. But yeah, I can't let you go until we do the Happier Life Project's last 5 in 5. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. When and where are you at your happiest?
I would say when I'm in nature, fully in my body with the people I love.
What's your favorite thing to do that nourishes your mental health?
Being with my cats and my fiance.
What piece of advice do you now know that you wished somebody would have told you earlier that would have made you a happier person?
There's nothing wrong with you for hating your body. There's nothing wrong with you for turning against your own self, and it will all be okay in the end.
This is quite a big one. What's the most important one thing that needs to change to make the world a happier place?
I think we would need to do a fundamental shift from a culture that teaches people and women that their body is a problem, from a culture to a culture that honors bodies and that makes us feel like we can trust our body and fully inhabit them.
Great answer. Okay, final question. What's one simple, actionable first step that we can take to loosen the grip of constantly evaluating our bodies against societal standards that can help us move towards a happier, healthier life?
I would say meeting ourselves with kindness. So maybe noticing, we're talking about self-objectification today, so noticing the voice inside of your head who's judging you and meeting yourself with kindness, like, oh, you're feeling bad about your body right now. That's actually cute. You're cute. You're trying to look pretty. That's okay. I don't need this voice anymore. I got it from here. I'll be fine. Thank you. Kindness.
Well, thank you very much. And if people want to check out your Instagram page, and from there, I know you've got a link to, like, if you want to potentially work with you on all the stuff that we've talked about today and more, it's Instagram.com, Lucie Vallée Body Image, and we'll put that link in the show notes. Is there anywhere else you want me to direct people to, or is that kind of the hub?
No, Instagram is great.
Okay.
That's the best.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lucie. I really, really appreciate your time.
This was a very interesting conversation, and your questions were really interesting. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Hello, friends. It's Gabby back with you. If you are suffering with your mental health, there is a crisis button on the My Possible Self app, which will signpost you to the correct information for immediate expert advice. Those of you who are listening on one of the podcast platforms, the My Possible Self app is completely free to download. You can access all of the content, so you don't need to worry about it costing you anything. If you found this episode helpful, please do subscribe and leave a review and share it with your friends. And to find and follow us on social media, we are most active on Instagram, and you can find us at My Possible Self. And I've been at Radio Gabby. Until the next one, do take care. Bye for now.